Imagine being moments away from your final breath, with your fate sealed on death row. The grim cold walls of the prison cell seem to close in on you, inch by inch, as the clock ticks relentlessly toward the inevitable. The death row, a place where hope is a distant memory and freedom a cruel illusion. In the shadows of these chilling realities, the human spirit, however, refuses to be quelled. It grapples with the fear, the despair, and the looming specter of death, seeking a way out, a glimmer of hope. The desperation fuels determination to escape the inescapable, to defy the odds, to cheat death itself. Throughout history, there have been numerous tales of prisoners on death row attempting to escape their grim fate. Some of these attempts have been nothing short of ingenious, while others, downright chilling. Yet they all share a common thread: the unyielding human will to survive. Today we delve into a story that is as riveting as it is unthinkable. A story that will make you question the limits of human ingenuity and resilience. An escape plan so audacious, so mind-boggling that it seems to have sprung right out of a Hollywood thriller, a plan conceived in the claustrophobic confines of a death row cell, hatched in the dead of the night and executed with a daring that defies belief. A plan that was not just about escaping a prison cell, but about escaping the inevitable, the ever-looming shadow of death. As we peel back the layers of this incredible tale, prepare to be taken on a roller coaster ride of suspense, intrigue, and sheer audacity. Remember, this isn't fiction, this isn't a movie. This is a real-life saga of desperation, determination, and a daring escape from the clutches of death. The tale we're about to unravel is one such desperate and insane plan to escape death row. So brace yourself, because what you're about to hear will challenge everything you thought you knew about the human drive for survival. Meet John, a man of intellect, cunning, and desperation. John wasn't always known as the mastermind behind the most insane escape plan from death row. His journey to this infamous title began under the most ordinary circumstances. Born in a small nondescript town in the Midwest, John was an average child with an extraordinary mind. His intelligence was both his greatest strength and his most destructive weakness. As he grew older, John found himself entangled in a life of crime. His sharp intellect and cunning made him a formidable opponent to the law. However, his life took a drastic turn when he was convicted for a series of high-profile robberies and a crime that shocked the nation: murder. The court was ruthless, the jury unyielding, and the gavel fell, sealing his fate. John was sentenced to death row. Secluded in a tiny cell, John's world became a monotonous cycle of despair and regret. The stark reality of his impending doom began to sink in. However, instead of surrendering to his fate, he chose to fight. He used his intellect, his cunning, and the desperation to survive to craft an escape plan. His motivations were simple yet profound. John yearned for freedom, a chance to rewrite his story, a shot at redemption. He wanted to prove to the world and himself that he was more than his crimes, more than the man the court had painted him to be. His life had become a countdown to the inevitable, and he was determined to stop the clock. The plan was audacious, daring, and it seemed nearly impossible, but to John, it was a beacon of hope in the endless darkness that was death row. He didn't just want to escape, he wanted to expose the flaws in the system, to challenge the very foundations of the prison establishment. In the face of imminent death, John devised an escape plan that would challenge the very foundations of the prison system. Decoding John's plan is like stepping into a world of illusions, masterful deceit, and audacious courage. Now let's delve into the intricacies of this mind-boggling plan. John, you see, was not an ordinary prisoner. He had an uncanny ability to manipulate his surroundings, turning them into his playground. He observed, he learned, and he exploited. Every crack in the wall, every loose tile on the floor, every seemingly insignificant detail became a part of his grand escape plan. John's cell was on the 3rd floor, a daunting height from the ground. But instead of seeing this as a barrier, he saw it as an opportunity. He managed to acquire a length of rope by unraveling his prison-issued blanket, strand by strand. This was a tedious process, but John was patient. He had time on his side. Next, he noticed a weakness in the prison's security. The guards routinely checked the cells every hour on the hour, but there was a 10-minute window between the end of one round and the start of the next, where the cells were not under direct surveillance. 10 minutes might not seem like a lot, but for John it was a window of opportunity. But the most audacious part of his plan involved a mirror shard. John had managed to acquire a small piece of mirror from the prison barber shop. He used this to create a decoy, By positioning the mirror in such a way that it reflected his bunk, he made it appear as if he was still in his cell during the 10-minute window. His plan was not just about escaping his cell, it was about outsmarting the system. It was about exploiting the weaknesses in the prison's security, turning his measly resources into tools and using his surroundings to his advantage. The plan, as crazy as it sounded, was set into motion. The stakes were high, and the odds were against John. But as we'll see, John wasn't one to back down from a challenge. In a game of life and death, every move mattered. John was treading on thin ice. John had meticulously planned everything, but executing the plan was another beast altogether. The first hurdle was to get past the security cameras. This was a prison, after all, a place designed to keep people in, not out. He had to time his movements to coincide with the brief blind spots in the camera's sweep. One wrong step and he would be caught. Then came the challenge of the locked doors. He had managed to fashion a makeshift lockpick, but using it without arousing suspicion was a tricky task. Every scrape of metal on metal echoed in the deathly silence of the corridors. Sweat trickled down his face, his heart pounded like a drum, but he continued, knowing that his life depended on it. The prison was a labyrinth, but John had memorized its layout during his years of confinement. He navigated through the maze-like corridors with ease, evading the guards' patrol routes. There were close calls, moments when he had to duck into shadows or press himself against the cold, hard walls to avoid detection. The suspense was suffocating. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves outside sent his heart into his throat. But he pressed on, driven by desperation and the hope of freedom. The final hurdle was the prison wall, a towering monolith of concrete and steel. But John was prepared. He had managed to secure a rope, which he now used to scale the wall, his muscles screaming in protest. He barely made it to the other side before the alarms blared, a deafening sound that echoed in the silent night. Against all odds, John had managed to execute his plan, but was it enough to escape the jaws of death? The question hung in the air, a specter of uncertainty as the sirens wailed and the searchlights swept the grounds. Only time would tell if John had truly escaped, or if he had merely postponed his date with the Grim Reaper. The aftermath of John's insane plan was a spectacle no one could have predicted. Following the execution of his daring plan, the dust finally settled and the repercussions started to unfold. The world held its breath as everyone eagerly awaited the results of John's audacious endeavor. The question on everyone's lips was, had he done it? Had John managed to outsmart the system and escape the clutches of death row? Despite an elaborate scheme that defied all conventional wisdom, the answer was a resounding no. John's plan, as insane as it was, had failed. The prison had been turned upside down, but in the end, the death row remained inescapable. The authorities found John within the prison walls, his audacious plan having fallen short of its ambitious goal. The failure, however, was not in vain. John's insane plan had a profound impact on the prison system. It exposed the vulnerabilities and loopholes that existed within the system, prompting a complete overhaul of security measures. The policies on death row were tightened, making future escape attempts even more improbable. But John's story did not end with his failed escape attempt. The audacious nature of his plan caught the world's attention, sparking debates and discussions around the globe. His attempt was seen as a desperate move by a man who had nothing to lose, a testament to human resilience in the face of impending doom. The ripple effects of John's insane plan were far-reaching. It challenged the status quo, forcing the authorities to rethink their strategies. It also shed light on the dire conditions and desperation that could drive a man to such lengths. John's insane plan to escape death row, whether successful or not, went down in history as one of the most audacious escape attempts ever made. It served as a stark reminder of what people are capable of when pushed to their limits, and the lengths they will go to in order to survive. Regardless of its outcome, John's plan will always be remembered for its audacity, its ingenuity, and the profound impact it had on the world. John's insane plan to escape death row, whether successful or not, went down in history as one of the most audacious escape attempts ever made.